Hello, fellow denizens of hell, and welcome back to another History Behind the Hazbin. And today, I will be going over one of the cheesiest and least popular characters of the franchise. So, I keep getting constant comments on my How All the Characters Perish video, which, by the way, has almost 1.5 million views. Thank you so much for that. Anyways, one of the most popular comments on my death theory were people yelling at me about how they thought Sir Pentious died from a snake bite, hence why he's a snake. And there were a lot of these comments. Like a lot. Like, wow. And so that told me that I had to make the Sir Pentious video next. This video won't be as long as the Angel Dust one because we don't really know much about Sir Pentious as we do about Angel Dust. But anyway, here it is. History behind this Sneck boy. So, let's review what we do know about this armed noodle. He died in 1888 in his 40s, meaning he was born in the 1840s. However, we do not have a place, and there is little indication of what place Sir Pentious lived in. But fear not, I have a good way to determine this, and that is through answering the question on everyone's mind, why is Sir Pentious a snake? And to that I say, the answer is very simple and pun-related. It is not death by snakebite, no. Sir Pentious here was what was known as a snake oil salesman. Snake oil is not in a literal sense, he didn't milk snakes or whatever, well, he could have, but that's not exclusive. Snake oil refers to a scam involving deceptive marketing or healthcare fraud. Basically, it's deceiving people in order to get them to buy something. Normally, it's a product marketed with some magical, wondrous properties like losing weight or curing cancer or helping you stay healthy. You all know the stuff I'm talking about. The name snake oil came from viper oil, which was advertised as a cure-all in the UK. And there was also famous snake oil salesman Clark Stanley, who marketed rattlesnake oil as a cure in the southern US. These are your essential oils, weight loss teas, all those products that your friends' moms try to shove down your throat on Facebook. Except this was before the days of MLMs. This is exactly the kind of pun that Vivzy Pop would make. All of Angel Dust's family are spiders due to their web of crime. Thus, Sir Pentious being a snake due to his profession of being a snake oil salesman fits perfectly. I rest my case. So, what does that tell us about Sir Pentious' country of origin? Well, looking at this time period and his attire, we can conclude that he is either in the UK or the US, as that is where literal snake oil was prevalent. I would say he lived in an urban area, living in a period of rapid economic growth after the Industrial Revolution. He looks kind of British and kind of speaks strange, but then again, accents aren't really a thing since Cherry Bomb is Australian and has no accent. But there is one small clue that lets us know where he is from, and that is the stripes on his suit. Pinstripes were invented in the early 19th century by banks in London to identify their employees. Pinstripes weren't adopted in the US until the 1920s, at least 40 years after Sir Pentious' death. Given that Sir Pentious died in 1988, we can safely say that he is indeed British. But I am focusing less on location here, and more on other aspects, such as the Industrial Revolution. Sir Pentious grew up during the Industrial Revolution. During this time, child labor wasn't outlawed and was very much a thing. So depending on his family background, Sir Pentious may have been forced to work as a child. And there were no labored standards back in the day. So people were easily replaceable, and there was no insurance or labor laws. If a kid chopped their finger off, throw him out in the streets, on to the next one. Sir Pentious grew up during this time, and depending on his class, may have had to work in one of these facilities as a child. It would make sense as to how he became so fascinated with machinery or inventions, but I think Sir Pentious probably comes from an upper class or middle class dwellings and probably never had to work as a kid, as you would think that this kind of machinery would probably have scared him as a kid. Honestly, I don't know enough about Sir Pentious to really determine his class background, and whether or not he had to work as a child. We can assume Sir Pentious is a failed inventor. I think the eyes represent all the peers watching him, or his desire to be approved by others. The time period where Sir Pentious lived in was the peak for inventors and inventions. So many things were invented during his lifetime. Steam-powered engines, syringes, steel alloys, the modern bicycle design, gas lamp traffic lights, the telephone, the light switch, the steam turbine, fingerprinting, the discovery of the electron, and those are just the British inventors. Inventions and innovations were being produced like crazy, and everyone wanted in on the action, including Sir Pentious. Not only technology, but medicine was also advanced as well. And of course, there were many who tried to follow in their footsteps, and failed, just like Sir Pentious. I believe that after failing in the machinery world, Sir Pentious moved on to the medicine world. I believe Sir Pentious' main invention was elixirs or cure-alls for a variety of ailments, a lot of which caused serious and possibly deadly side effects. And when people would complain about the side effects, Sir Pentious wouldn't listen because he was too proud of what he created. Perhaps instead of knowing what he sold was hogwash, like most snake oil salesmen, Sir Pentious may have actually believed his inventions worked. You know, like the essential oil people. Or maybe he did know his concoctions were bullshit, contributing to the whole snake thing, as snakes are also known to be associated with deception. But he sold concoctions that were marketed as cure-alls to desperate people who didn't know any better, which ties into the next part of my video. On to my theory about Sir Pentious' death. I believe that Sir Pentious died trying to test his own inventions. He drank his own mixture he was trying to sell, and it killed him. Actually, I have a perfect scenario on how this probably happened. Remember the eyes on his body and what I said about them earlier? Well, what if those eyes were there because people watched him die? Picture this. Sir Pentious is pitching his product to a crowd. He's making ridiculous claims as usual. One person that bought his products before complains about a horrible side effect of them and claims he is a fraud. Sir Pentious argues with them, and the person asks him to prove his invention works and ingest it himself. So Sir Pentious does, trusting his invention or not wanting to ruin his pride, and he dies in front of the crowd. In the end, his pride that his inventions would work, or his pride of keeping his reputation, killed him. And this concludes the history behind Sir Pentious. Remember to let me know if you want to see more of these videos, and until then, study on!